Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm Dave Westcott, CEO, Evergreen Brands, which has many different brands beneath it. And I'm here today to talk about one of my favorite topics. And I think this is one of the most important topics for any leader, any day of the week, any time in your career, no matter what you're doing. And it's learning and training. And I think that this is absolutely critical for you on your way to building that $1 million business. That's what I like to talk about. I love to talk about building $1 million businesses. I love to talk about the entrepreneurial journey. I love to talk about what happens along that path. And this is so critical. Learning is so critical. And I'll take you back to the beginning of my career in the early 2000s when I was just doing landscaping work. And as I started my business and I put it all together, like I just mowed lawns. That's what I did. And so many of my customers needed irrigation work. Right? But I was a lawn mowing guy. Like I could mow your lawn and I could fertilize and I could do those things, but I missed some key components. And irrigation was one of those. And so I said, okay, I've got to get better at irrigation. I've got to understand irrigation. So I went down to the local college and I looked at their horticulture program and I said, what can I do to level up? What can I do to be better? And I enrolled in the horticulture program. And why did I do that? I learned plant identification, and that was awesome because then I could go out and talk to customers and I could know all of the plants in their yards or on their properties, and I could speak intelligently to what kind of plants were there and what disease might be doing and some of those kind of cool things. And I took pruning classes and learned how to prune trees and prune shrubs and know how to remove dead, damage, and decay. And I learned those things. But more importantly, I took irrigation classes and I became, certified in irrigation. And irrigation was one of those things that it just scared me to death in the beginning. And it was like, okay, we're going to cut this pipe. And if we cut the pipe, we shouldn't cut it after 2 o'clock, the main line coming to the house, whether it's a poly pipe or a copper pipe, because, if we can't get it back on, they're not going to have water, and oh my goodness, and it's this really, big event. And then years later, it's like, yeah, no big deal, cut that thing at 4:30, just boom, 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 snap it back together and put it in. But in the beginning, it's so nerve-wracking, and you're learning, how many gallons per minute per head, and what kind of nozzles, and how deep is the irrigation pipe, and you're learning all of these things, and it's all new. But every one of those classes that I took early on, and it was hard. I can remember having class at 7 o'clock at night, finishing a job and having my truck loaded to the max, squatting all the way in, and I'm covered in dirt from head to toe, and I go into class, and there's 20 teenagers, it seems like, in the class with me, and I'm just hammered in dirt. But I'm there, and I'm learning, and I'm growing, and I'm getting smarter. And learning and training is like being a sponge, right? And so what I learned was hey, why don't I make sure that I train my people? So irrigation techs, man, I started sending them through that same college course. Pruning, I started sending my guys through the same college courses. And so my guys in the field were learning and they were growing and they were getting those certifications. And then they were getting pay raises to go along with that. And that was really, really powerful for my business because you had guys, blue collar, who were like, yeah, I'm going to college. This is awesome. And I paid for it all. But I was getting a better product delivered to my customers. One of the things I love to talk about is an incredible customer experience. And by investing in my employees, investing in my teams, what happened was I built this really awesome pruning team. And all they would do is go out and prune. Right? Well, pruning is a big deal. But pruning needs to be done a certain way, and it needs to be done correctly. And so I had certified pruners on staff, and they were making more money. Well, guess what? I was charging more. And then I'm using that as a sales tactic, right? I'm talking, to my customers about, hey, this is where my guys are trained. This is how they go through the process. This is how we're going to, prune your fruit trees for health, or, hey, these deciduous trees haven't been pruned in 15 years. This is how we're going to do it, so on and so forth. And that was awesome. And I built irrigation crews, right? And these irrigation crews, they were all certified irrigation techs. I didn't have just random guys slamming pipe in the ground. Like, they're checking the gallons per minute. They're checking the PSI. They're making sure that the system has the right amount of zones and the right amount of pressure with the right, everything done correctly. And they're learning, from the best people. And what happened was that became really, really powerful. Well, what happened was I started building relationships with teachers. And teachers were actually people who owned businesses, who were experts in the field, who did teaching on the side. And I'll never forget Soundview Irrigation. Man, that was the irrigation instructor. And he was awesome. And he had an irrigation business. And then as I had jobs, as we'd get filled up, I'd actually sub him jobs, and he'd go out and knock those jobs out for us, or they'd go do backflow testing for us. And so not only was I building relationships, for my guys and my teams, but I was building relationships with teachers who were now doing work for us because we were putting the very best people in front of our customers and the best people in the field. And so that learning really helped us at an early age as a young baby company to grow. But the investment in the employee was awesome. Now, I'll tell you today that none of those employees are with me today. And so the truth of the matter is that you're going to invest in people, and those people are going to leave. Those people are going to find a new job somewhere. They're going to have a new career somewhere. They're going to start a business somewhere. I can tell you that over the last 20 years, there's probably been 25 people who left my business and went and started their own. And some of those people have said, I can do it better. And some of those people have left and said, hey, I just want to be like you. But to all of them who took that entrepreneurial journey, I applaud you. I don't care if you left or if you stayed. But what I care is that you have a great quality of life. And that's another thing I love to talk about is quality of life. I love to have a great quality of life. So often we see people that we know pass. And it's one of the toughest parts of life. And I'm always reminded how short life is. And so along this journey, I love to talk about, live your best life, live your best day, do the best you can just for today. Because that's what it's all about. And how do I live my best day? Well, it's learning. And I break learning down into multiple categories. And first, it's going to start with books. So I want to understand what people have done before me, because the truth is the past repeats itself. So how can I do things better? How do I grow better? I remember my first leadership team was probably in 2005 or 2006, and I had a leadership team of people, and we were working out of job construction trailers. And as we're working out of job construction trailers in a landscaping business, we're reading the book, The 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership or whatever. And we're going around the table, and we would read a chapter, and we'd each read a paragraph within the chapter, and then we'd discuss it and how can we apply it to our business and what that plan was. And so we had a series of books that we would read, and for example, like The Go-Giver. That's a great book that we would read. The How to Win Friends and Influence People, another great book. The Seven Habits of Effective People or whatever. Great book. Checklist Manifesto, a great book. Atomic Habits, a great book. The Hard Thing About Hard Things, great book. Jim Collins, B 2.0, another great book. And you listen and you look at what these people are extrapolating, and you look at what they're putting down on paper, and you're looking at the lessons learned and the cases put forth, and you're saying, how do I take things out of my business? How do I take things out of this book and apply them into my business? And the fact of the matter is I am not a fan of listening to books on the radio or in the car or whatever. I don't like that, because what I find is that if I'm just listening to a book, I'm going to lose it. Like my mind's going to start wandering. What am I having for dinner? What is that idiot in the car in the front of me doing? Why is he slamming on his brakes? And then I'm like, oh, okay, I got to get back to the book. But I find if I can concentrate on one chapter a day. And if I can do one chapter a day in the morning, that's it, just one chapter. Maybe it's 4 pages, maybe it's 10 pages. But if I can do one chapter a day, and if I can underline in that book, and then I keep a separate notebook that's just for the book I'm reading, and then I take notes and I say, okay, this is something I want to apply to my business this month. And I'll take that out. And I'll give you an example. Like Jim Collins is a great author, right? Many, many books, good to great, that maybe a lot of you have read. But as we're looking at that, one of the things that Jim Collins says is fire bullets, not cannonballs. And that's one of those things that you always keep with you. And if you're looking at investing in a new business or you're going to roll something out that's brand new, maybe it's good to do a few test shots and just see how it goes. Test the market, feel it out, see what happens, see if you even like it. And if you do like it and the stars align, then boom, fire the cannonball and put all your effort into it. Another, great Jim Collins piece of knowledge is preserve the core. And so many times as entrepreneurs in our businesses, it's really easy to get distracted by things that are outside of the norm, right? It's like, oh my gosh, this new line of business is going to be amazing. I'm going to be a mulch delivery company, or, I'm going to add concrete services, or I'm going to add electric vehicle services, or, like you're looking at your expansion and you're looking at different ways to make money. But I think it's always important, preserve the core. What makes you the most money and what makes you the most money that has the most profit. And so when we look at those two things and we combine them, now I want to preserve my core because the core is what got me here to begin with. I don't want to lose my core, right? And sacrifice it for something else. So I want to preserve the core. So what's my core? My core is snow removal. Like at the end of the day, I'm going to be a snow removal guy inside and out. That's my core. So at all costs, I got to preserve the core. I might do EV installs or concrete or consulting or own a condominium management business or, own a bee farm or whatever I might want to do. But I got to preserve the core, and the core is snow removal. And so those are great tips that I can take from great leaders. And so books are really important. So as you're going on your entrepreneurial and you're learning and you're training, one, I always suggest this. Whether you have a sales team or an operations team or an accounting team, how are you leveling those teams up? What does their ongoing training look like? And what I love to see for my teams is, as a group, let's read a book. So if I'm running my sales team, we're going to read 80-20 sales and marketing, or how to win friends and influence people, right? And we're going to read one chapter a week, not a chapter a day, one chapter a week. That way they are getting new knowledge and new information, and they are grasping new concepts. And I can tell you that, like, the first time you introduce one of your team members to a Jim Collins or a Dale Carnegie or whomever it might be, it's like you can start seeing light bulbs go off in their heads. And they start thinking about things greater than the position that they're currently in. And they start having this mindset of growth because you're growing them. Their brain is expanding. They're getting better. They're getting smarter because you're investing in them. And that's part of that training. You're training them to be better leaders. You're training them to take the business to the next level. And so books are so important. So that's one of the things I love for training and for learning. How are we growing? How are we leveling up? And then I love hands-on training. And I think hands-on is so absolutely critical to any of us in a leadership role. So what are we doing? Well, I try to take a week a year or 2 weeks a year or 6 months if I'm, taking some college courses or whatever it might be, things that make me better. But every year I'm trying to invest in myself. And over the years, what does that look like? Well, it started with irrigation classes, and it started pruning classes, and, we take plant identification classes. And then I took real estate classes, and I got a real estate license. And then I got a managing broker's license. And then I got an insurance license and learned about insurance and became a producer of casualty and property insurance. And so started going down those paths of constant learning. And I can remember, when synthetic turf was starting to come out, in the early 2000s and, taking the crews down to Chattanooga, Tennessee, to a distributor plant and going through their training. But I'll tell you, my guys could whip out synthetic turf, boom, 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 boom. Because we trained them. We went through an entire seminar, 2-day process of installations, and we had it down pat. We could do it so fast. So how are we investing? Again, training our people and training ourselves, right? So that we know what we're doing. QuickBooks, learning QuickBooks. I remember calling Dr. QuickBooks and saying, Dr. QuickBooks, I need you to come tutor me in QuickBooks. I want to learn QuickBooks inside and out. I'm not an accountant, but I want to understand the process. I want to understand how it works. If anything ever happens, I want to be able to go into QuickBooks, manage QuickBooks, look at QuickBooks. I want to be able to do all of those things. So I'm focused on those things. I took a class with Kim Coop, and Kim Coop ran a LinkedIn class, and I want to say it was probably, 3 months long. And what was it on? It was on social media, and it was, getting your street view set and getting your banner set and how often should you post and what kind of content should you post and how do you work on your elevator speech and how often are you updating LinkedIn and how are you being socially relevant? And that was huge because I was on a call with, maybe 20 other people, and we had homework and we had, to bring, things to the class and share, and we had all of this stuff. And what it did was it made my LinkedIn game better. And that was investing, in what I heard. And it was taking it to the next level. I said, I'm a little weak on social media. In fact, I hated social media. I hated being on social media. I hated everything to do with social media. In fact, my social media profile didn't even show my face. Didn't even have my last name on it. And so I was so anti-social media, but I said, you know what, that's an area where I need to do better. If I'm leading my company as an entrepreneur, if I'm truly building this $1 million business, if I'm truly taking things to the next level, I need to invest, right? I need to make myself better. And then I said, hey, for my team, anybody on my team, they want to take this, I'll pay for it. Because I want you to be better at LinkedIn. I want you to be better at social media. But at the end of the day, how many people do you think took me up on that? Out of all the people that work for me, how many people do you think said, gosh, man, you're going to pay for this course from this expert who's LinkedIn certified? How many people do? Zero. Out of all the people who work for me, 0 people said, I want to do better. 0 people said, I want to level up my game. And you think about that, and you think about the employees who work for you, and you think about the business leaders that are around you, and people don't have a drive to do better for the most part. Now, you can put them in it and say, hey, you're going to take this class, and you're going to participate, and you're going to do this. But they don't really want to. And there's certain designations, like in the snow industry, and you look at those designations, and I'll just share, there used to be a designation, and you'd have to prepare for it and plan, and then you'd have to go to a community college, and you'd have to take the test, and it was really tough, and it was closed book, and then you got this designation. And it was like, man, I really got that. I really worked hard for it. I'm a master. And then they took it away. And they said, hey, now we're going to do it open book. And now you can take it online. We're going to make it easier. And I felt like that's a lowering of the bar. Sure, good information, great information, great to that. But I watched people take the test, and I watch them, collaborating together, and I watch them using the book. They're not learning and understanding the materials. And they're not investing in themselves. When you talk about learning and growing and training, if you don't fulfill it, if you don't push through it, the only person that you cheat is yourself. Taking a safety course, becoming a certified safety trainer was one of the things that I did. Why? Because I wanted to make sure that I could train my people. How do I back up a trailer? When should I put out safety cones? What kind of shoes should I be wearing? What kind of eye protection should I have? What kind of hearing protection should I have? What kind of hard hat, or how am I protecting myself? And all of those things become really, really important, like chainsaw safety. What a huge thing. When I started my business or when I worked for other landscape companies, I'll tell you that I worked as a landscaper in the field when I was like 16, 17, 18 years old. Like I worked as a landscaper. I'd work summers and I'd go out and we'd be cutting down trees and we'd be using big steel chainsaws and we'd be cutting them up. Guess what? I was wearing tennis shoes. I was wearing jeans. I probably had a baseball cap on, frontwards or backwards. Lucky to be wearing gloves. No ear protection, no eye protection, and I'm just ripping through wood. I can't tell you how many times the chainsaw blade almost caught a toe or almost caught my pants. But the people I worked for, guess what? They had no chainsaw safety program. I didn't even know there was such a thing. I had no safety chaps on that would have caught the blade from cutting my leg off. I had no steel toe boots on. I didn't even know that I was supposed to wear those things. Awareness and training and learning. And so as we develop, what I've learned along the way is that if I have team members, and there's no diss to team members because they have lives and they have their own journey that they're on, but a lot of time they're not going to invest in themselves. They're happy with the status quo. And so if you want your team to level up, if you want your team to grow, if that's something that's important to you, what's absolutely critical is you make it a part of their package, right? Hey, during work hours, you can take this class. We are going to pay for this class. We are going to pay for this certification. And you're going to hope they're going to get the most out of it, but at least you're moving forward. And many people say, I don't want to invest. I don't want to invest in them because they're just going to leave. And that's true. They will all leave at some point. But for the time that they're in your business, they're going to make your business better. They're going to make your business grow. Now, I had an opportunity to attend Harvard Business School, and that was an amazing thing. And I was so excited to be there, and I was so excited to do that. And there's so much learning through case studies, many, many case studies of many, many businesses. And you go through these case studies, and you've got these points that you talk about, and you have a group that you connect with, and you go back and forth, and you discuss, certain items within the case study, and then you present to the group. And, there's a lot of this cool stuff that's happening, and that's one element of their teaching style. And you learn about all of these businesses. And along this journey, I learned all of these things. And I thought to myself, gosh, it sure would have been awesome to have all of this knowledge before I started my business. Because I thought about my journey. And I thought about the many, many years that I had been in business. And what I learned was that at Harvard Business School, they actually taught me every single thing that I needed to know not to fail. Like they actually did. Like, it's amazing, right? But what did I learn from that was that if I would have had that schooling and if I would have had that knowledge, maybe I wouldn't have made as many mistakes as I made along the way. And what I was able to calculate was I started going back through and they're like, okay, this is one of the things that we're going to talk about today. How to hire employees and train them. Okay, well, if I had done a better job of that, maybe I wouldn't have lost those 20 employees in the first couple of years I was in business. Maybe I paid millions of dollars in losses and failures to learn those lessons along the way that I could have learned had I gone to school. But had I gone to school without the experience, would I have even known to look at those things? Would I have even paid attention to them along the way? Would they have even been there for me? I don't know the answer to that question, but what I can tell you is that looking back, I saw a lot of errors and I saw a lot of things that I did incorrectly. And I figured at the end of that schooling period, there was nothing new that was taught that I hadn't learned or experienced along the way. So experience is a great teacher, but experience costs you a lot more money because it comes with failures. Failing, learning, doing better. Failing, learning, doing better. It also takes more grit and perseverance because every time you fail, now you've got to learn something. And so what I like to focus on and what I like to say is learn as much as you possibly can. Take down those notes. Be a sponge. I can remember my first conferences and my first trade association experiences and my first times listening to guest speakers or high-level speakers, and I would be taking copious amounts of notes, just pages and pages and pages of notes, and I'd be trying to implement all these things in my business. And now I go and I might take half a page of notes because I've learned a bunch of things. But the message is, and the learning is, always be learning. Always be looking for that next thing. Always be looking for that next way to grow yourself. And so we want to have hands-on experience. We want to get our fingers into it. We want to get our boots wet. We want to understand it. That way we're experts. We're SMEs. We're subject matter experts. And so then we want to train our brains, right? What are we doing for my brain? What am I doing for thought leadership? What am I doing to be smarter? What am I doing to be the smartest guy in the room? Now, I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room, but I want to get there. If there's a guy who's smarter than me, I want to learn. How did he get there? What did he do to get that smart? How did that become? Associations. What kind of business do you provide? Are you in the fruit smoothie business? Are you a franchise for a Burger King? Are you a landscaper? What do you do every day? Do you own a CPA practice? Do you own a bookkeeping practice? Are you a marketing agency? What are you doing? What is your trade association? And when you find those trade associations, how are you participating? Are you involved? Are you attending the classes? Are you working on the volunteer committees? Because these are amazing ways to meet your peers. And if you're learning and training, one, it's a great place to bring your staff because they're going to glean information. They're going to get smarter. They're going to get more intelligent. Yes, there's an investment to bring them. Yes, there's an investment in them. You've got plane tickets and hotels and time. But guess what? They get to have fun and they get to have a good time while they're there. But they also get to grow themselves. And when they grow themselves, they're going to be better for your business. Like I said earlier, I love to talk about the incredible experience. So when we're taking care of this experience and we're really doing it, like if the better I level up my team, the better I train my team, the better the experience is going to be for my customer. Right? The better it's going to be. So involve yourself in your local trade association. Immerse yourself into it. Work to be a member of the board of directors. Be a volunteer. Attend the classes. Take notes. And you will see, wow, amazing growth in your business. And then the last item is find a mentor. Find somebody that does what you do and does it great that you want to be like. And if you're going to be a mentoree or a mentor, like follow up, communicate, have regular conversations. Make sure that the values align, because if your values don't align with your mentor-mentoree relationship, it's not a good relationship. Right? What kind of values do you look for? Well, I'm a Christian guy, so I'm looking for Christian values. If you don't have Christian values, then I don't particularly care to work with you because I don't want an outside influence or I don't want to communicate with you, right? And then I'm going to listen to the things that you're saying. I'm going to listen to where you are. And what I find a lot of times is, are we having a mentor because we're looking for them to tell us what to do and make the decisions for us? Or are we truly using them as a sounding board? And what it comes down to using them as a sounding board, we're giving them the real facts. Because at the end of the day, if I have a mentor and I'm like, hey, Joe, what do you think I should do, about this situation with my employees? And I can frame that to him. I can sell that to him. And then he'll say, yeah, Dave, I think that's the right thing to do. So what was the point? I just needed someone to validate my concern because I didn't have the guts to do it on myself. Most of the time as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we know the right thing to do. We just need someone to validate it because we don't have the guts to do it ourselves. So we got to have those guts. But if we are going to have a mentor, we need to share both sides of the coin, the pros and the cons. And then we should ask for an experience share. Can you share a time when you had a similar situation and what happened in it? Because advice doesn't necessarily help me. Advice doesn't help me build a better business. But experience shares of how they walked through it, what the pitfalls were, what the wins were, are really, really good. And then if you have a really great mentor, they can point out things that you may not have thought of or seen. They can help you identify blind spots that are going to help you grow your business. And so that mentor relationship is really important, but it's also important in your business. Like, who's mentoring the new people who are coming on board? Who's mentoring the new staff that are being immersed in your culture, in your business, in your brand? How are you training those people? How are they coming up? Do they have mentors outside of your business that are helping them level up and become the best that they can be? And so when we talk about learning and training, it's really broken down into those categories. We've got books. How are we learning through books? How are we learning hands-on? How are we learning mentally, right? Courses, college, whatever it might be. Associations, and mentors. And if we can tap in to those 5 segments, if we can push ourselves to those 5 pieces and do something in it every day, every month, every week, whatever, but we have a consistent learning and training plan, we are continuing to grow. We are continuing to scale. We are going to be an industry leader. And before you know it, you're the smartest guy in the room. And now it's hard to find people who aren't smarter than you. And that's not a bad thing. Everybody says, I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. And I don't think that's good either. But at the end of the day, if you continue growing and you continue educating and you continue to master your craft, at some point you are a master. And so how many hours does it take? Well, they say it takes 10,000 hours to master something. So how many hours are you putting into your business? How many hours are you putting into your trade? How many hours are you putting into your craft? How are you taking that information and growing yourself? I wouldn't even recognize the person that I was when I started my business. I wouldn't even know who that person is. But after years and years and years of sponging and learning and growing and adapting and getting better through trials and tribulations, I'm not the same person I was those decades ago. And so as you build your business, the most important thing that you can do is take time out for yourself. Take time out every day. Take time out every week. Take time out every month to learn and grow yourself and put a strategic plan together for learning and growth. And then do that same thing for your team. Training. How are you training them? How are they learning? And how are they leveling up? So you're leveling up and you're leveling up your team. And don't worry about the investment in the team because they're going to be better. They're going to be stronger. And for the time that they're with you, they're going to produce great results. And if you did it once, you can do it again. So you're able to replicate it. And that's how you accomplish this incredible entrepreneurial journey. That's how you build this $1 million business that I love to talk about. That's how you give your clients an incredible customer experience. It's through learning and education and being an expert in everything that you touch. It's how you live your best life. Because if you're an expert in running your business and you know it in and out and you're continuing to learn and grow and you're stepping back and delegating and you're doing all of these things that the experts have taught us for many, many years, now you're living an incredible life. You're not just pulling weeds or mowing lawns after 2 decades of being in that situation. I think of my first boss I worked for, and I think about, him mowing lawns and how many lawns he had, 110 lawns, and the average price was $25 a lawn. And if he cut his 110 lawns 36 times a year, he would make $99,000 a year. Simple math, right? And I watched and I learned and I said, okay, he's only cutting them 25 times a year. So how can I do better? I can start a business. I can grow a business. I can do this. I can grow this and I can learn this. And so take what's in front of you and take that leap of faith and go for that best life because you only get one life. And it's short. It goes by in a blink of an eye. I hope this was helpful. I'm Dave Westcott, and if you would like to talk about a learning plan or you would like to talk about growing your business, or you would like to talk about training your team, whether it's a sales team or an operations team or an accounting team, I'd love to chat with you. DM me on LinkedIn, DM me on Facebook. I'd love to set up an appointment and chat with you. I'd love to talk about those particular things. If there's a topic you'd be interested in hearing me talk about, shoot me a message, DM me, shoot me a message on here. If you liked this, give it a like, give it a follow, give it a share. Share this content with your peers and your network. Thank you so much. We'll see you back here next week, 9:15 Tuesday, Pacific time. Have a great day. Have a blessed week. Thank you so much for tuning in.